Okay, so good morning, everybody, and welcome to one of our much loved module sessions. And this morning, Catherine and Jason will be running the session, so I'm just here to interject and just start you all off, really. So as per usual, bit of housekeeping. The session is recorded, so if you want to share it with any of your colleagues, then you're very welcome. We'll make sure that it gets uploaded on the charity support site, and I'll send an email to everyone that's registered with a link on how to access that. If you've got any questions, if I could ask you just to pop them in the chat box and then everyone could see them, just make sure you put them to panelists and attendees, and then everyone can see the questions that you've put in. And I think that's it. So I'm going to hand you over to Jason, and he's going to take us through this morning's session, which is all about reports.
Thanks, Ali. So we've got a few exciting slides to start with. So welcome. And as Ali said, I'm Jason. Today, my screen stopped working, so bear with me a moment.
It's the first hurdle.
Yeah, what we're going to cover today, this is Catherine's sheep, so I take no credit for the sheep. So this is Max, Catherine's sheep, making a guest appearance. But we're going to cover the reports that sit within your partner area. And we're going to demonstrate that really, which is probably the best way of showing you. So I'm just going to go to a mock partner area that we've created in our development site. So none of this data is real data, it's all made up, so you won't get to see anything exciting. So this is the reports button in the bar along here. The first bit of reporting, which I'm going to talk about, is the scheme overview. And the scheme overview is a really nice snapshot of what's happening with your tribute fund scheme. And here, so we'll start with this box here, you can see tributes created to date this year. So it's kind of comparing now with where you were last year. And so we can see here there were 4 up on this time last year, and the number 4 appears here also. And it also shows you the total number of tributes created since the very beginning of the scheme. And then there's a link here to the tribute report, which I'll talk about a bit later on. And then here we've got donations to date, so same as before. So we can see here that that were £827 up, and then you've got the figure here again, and you can see the total amount raised here since the very beginning of the scheme. And then you can go to the donation summary report, which Catherine's going to talk about later. And then we move down to the scheme overview. So this here is the total number of tributes created for this charity. And the next one, so the next 2 are a breakdown. So you've got tributes created through your scheme. So there are 17 here that were created through your scheme. And then the final one is tributes created through MuchLoved.com and tributes created by funeral directors. So we know that a lot of tribute pages are created by funeral directors. And then here you've got all of them, like the total number and a bit more of a breakdown. And then the next section is the donations. So total donations, and then we've got donations which have gone through MuchLoved, so what we refer to as online donations. And you can see here there are 5, and the next one is offline donations. So this is a mock-up site, so this is a bit kind of skewed, but offline donations could be something like a retiring collection from a funeral service in church, for example, and the funeral director then converts that into a check and adds it as an offline donation. And then it gives you the total number of individual donors. And finally, we've got events fundraising for you, and Catherine's going to talk about events a bit later on. The next section is your most active tributes, and I really like this. So this tends to be something I look at before I meet with any of my charities, and it just shows the most active tributes, just what it says on the tin. But this is actually a really quick way for you to access active tributes if you're about to do kind of a bit of internal promotion, a bit of a recap, or say if you've got health colleagues, you could almost share, say, someone who was a significant character. So if you're a hospice charity and you looked after someone who was really interesting, you could actually share their tribute page with your colleagues, and it'd be quite nice for them to see kind of another element of their life. And that was kind of the main motivation, really. One of the main motivations for MuchLoved was to be able to share a different perspective of that person, so everyone has their own unique kind of relationship with that person. So yeah, so we've got most active tributes here, and then we've got this funky graph that shows you donations compared to the previous year. So this isn't a nice example, but yours will be brilliant, and it will show you how you're doing this year compared to last year. And if you just kind of like hold your mouse over the bars, then it pulls up the total amount. So my next report is the tribute report. So I'm just going to go back to reports and then click on tribute report. So this data is so precious. So this data refers to the tribute owners, so all of the tributes and the owners of those tributes. Each of the reports has this section at the top, which you can minimize or maximize, and you can select a date range. So I've set it to all. Obviously, you can do this year, month, last month, this week, today, etc. Or you can enter your own date range. Say if you're on holiday and you wanted to have a nosy at how things had been whilst you're away, kind of thing, you could add in a specific date range. Here, you've got the option to exclude deactivated or deleted tributes, and that's automatically set to exclude those tributes. So we assume that tributes that are deactivated or deleted, that the tribute owner doesn't have an interest in them anymore. And then we've got this section here, so you can include just private tributes or public tributes. All tributes that are created are automatically set to public, and they're set to public because we want it to be as easy as possible for people to interact with them. But some people do choose to make them private, and it's automatically set to both here. And then donation types, so it's automatically set to all, but obviously you can specify online, so those that have gone through MuchLoved, or offline donations, like the retiring collection from the church, so the funeral director converted into a check and then added as an offline donation. And then we actually look at the data itself. So you've got this column here. This is the source column. And so with tributes, there are 3 creation sources. If you're an Optimum partner, the first one is that you can create a tribute through your MuchLoved partner area. And that appears as a, like this one here, so the white dove and the gold globe. And then the next option is a tribute that's created through one of your links or through your widget, and that appears as a green globe. I'm looking at my colleagues to make sure I've got this right. So, but they're smiling, which means I have. And then thirdly, you've also got a tribute that's created through your funeral collection link or your funeral collection wizard, and that appears in a black globe. And we haven't got any of those here, but what we also have is a white dove in a black circle, and that means that it's created by a funeral director. And actually, if you hover over it, it will actually tell you the name of the funeral director who's created that. And then finally, the purple ribbon means that the tribute owner has created their tribute page via MuchLoved.com, so they come direct to us.
Sorry, I was going to just say that there's lots of different source codes, but if, as you've seen Jason showing you, if you hover over any of them, it just gives you an explanation as to what it is. So if you're ever not sure, just hover over and it will give you an explanation. But we've tried to kind of break it down so that you can see where the page originated from, so you can give an appropriate stewardship journey.
Thank you. And then the next column is the tribute name. So this is the first part of the URL of the tribute. And I'm just going to click on this one, for example. So this takes us to Andy's page. And with all of these, you can click on them and it will toggle around with the date they're ordered in. So the tribute name, for example, would change them into alphabetical or ascending or descending, and then the same with the dates. So you can play around with the create date. So it's currently set to most recently created tribute, which is Andy's. And then the next column is the tribute owner information, or tribute guardian. I like to call them the tribute owner. And you've got their first name and their family name. And you've also got a green email box. So if you just click on that, it would take you to your email, and you can email them directly. So some of these won't have a tribute owner, and that's because the tribute page has been created by a funeral director, and the funeral director hasn't yet assigned a tribute owner. They may also not assign a tribute owner as well. That's something we work quite hard to encourage them to do. So there will be some empty fields potentially. So you've also got another column here, which is the funeral contact. So this could be, say, the spouse of the tributee, and they might not be overly IT savvy. So then they might not be interested in looking after the tribute page, but they do want to be contacted, or there's an expectation that you contact them. And as I said, the tribute owner could actually be different to the funeral contact. It could be, say, a younger, more IT savvy relative. And then you've got the next column, which is the fund status. So if they're green, it means they're fundraising for you. If they're orange, it means that they were fundraising for you, but they're no longer fundraising for you, and we leave that there to tease you. And then the tribute status is set to perpetual. So all our tribute pages are lifelong bereavement tools, unless people deactivate them or delete them. So yeah, so most of them will be P. And you've got your final column, which is the donation. So if you wanted to, you could kind of toggle around with this one, and you could see the tribute page that had raised the most so far. And you could also click on that, and that takes you to the donation summary report, which Catherine will speak about later. Oh, and you can toggle the number as well here if you wanted to at the bottom. But you've got your export options. So this, you can either click here on the word export options, or you can click on the purple plus. And this includes all of the fields that you can export. So I tend to automatically include all, and then deduct the ones that I don't think are helpful. What I wanted to draw your attention to were the special instructions. So funeral directors love adding special instructions when their client has asked them for money to go to a specific area. So that's worth noting that that's there. But it's all kind of pretty self-explanatory. You've got a column here for your GDPR. So this works really well when you only have one GDPR question. And if you have more than one, which we discourage you from doing, then you would access that data elsewhere. But you then click on CSV, and it exports it to an Excel spreadsheet, and then you can upload that to your CRM. So I'm just going to hand over to Catherine, unless either Catherine or Sally think that I've missed anything.
No, all good with me.
Thanks.
Questions so far, but anyone does have any questions, then, like I said, pop them in the chat box and we'll answer them as we go along.
Right. Oh, sorry, it's like croak as soon as I speak. Thanks so much, Jason. I think it's really nice to see the different uses, and I think a lot of people will use reports, but knowing the finer detail really helps, and some little tips in there to make the most of it. What is brilliant is that Jason's gone through most of the sort of intricate information about the available filters, which is great, saves me from doing it. And all the reports follow a very similar format. So you will have this available filters section at the top. And so I'm going to go through the donation summary report. So it's the third one down. And actually a lot of charities use this to cross-reference when we pay you an amount of money. So I think most of you will know that we, any donations made in a specific calendar month, we will process those. We will reclaim any gift aid and do the reconciliation with HMRC, and then we send that over to you, the actual money over to you, around the middle of the following month. However, within the reporting, you're getting a live stream you know, with this donation summary report and the donor detail report, you're getting that information in a live format. But what happens here is that sometimes the finance team may get a lump sum of money and you want to cross-reference what that is. So don't forget, it's not just yourselves. You can have other colleagues access your MuchLoved Partner area. So this donation summary report is what a lot of charities tell me that they use. And say, for example, you've got some money that's just come into your bank account on around the 15th of July. You might click on last month because it will relate to all the donations made in that specific time period. Then you've got these filters here and you're able to hide tributes without any donations in that period. So what we're looking at here is all your tributes that you have, but actually you can hide the ones without the donations in that period. And if you want to, you can exclude deactivated and deleted tributes too that, that you're able to do. So once you've made the sort of filter requirements that you want, you can then see those tributes listed below. As we mentioned earlier, because this is a test site, this information looks a bit skewiff. But for yourselves, you'll probably have a lot more online donations than we have here. But also you're able to see the offline donations. So any donations that have been added offline to keep everything in one hub will be listed in the offline donations. But you'll have these columns here that will enable you to see the number of donations on a specific tribute, the donation total, the fees, the gift aid that was reclaimed, the amount that was taken out, and then what you're receiving from us, and it will be this total down here that you'll receive. You're also able to see all the offline donations, and what you can do is open up this purple plus down here and export that information in a similar way out into a spreadsheet. So you've got the tribute information there. I'm actually going to touch in a minute on the tribute referencing and the fundraising references here. So you can do the online donation count and filter all that information out into a spreadsheet. As Jason demonstrated earlier, you can include all and then just take out the ones that you don't want and export that out into a spreadsheet. Right, what I did want to show you actually is, say for example, a really nice thing that some people don't realize is that, say for example, you want to do a specific report on Anna Ferguson. So maybe there were 20 donations on Anna's page, and you want to do a specific breakdown on that one. Now, clicking on somebody's name will actually take you over to the next report, which is the donor detail report. Sorry, I've got all my reports there. So it's the donor detail report, and that lists the individual donors. So I'm going to click on this. Oh no, I'm not actually, sorry. I obviously do know how to use this platform. It's actually the head and shoulders, sorry there, hang on a minute. That will open up the tribute, as you just found out. This one here is actually the details, so you can have a donor detail. If you hover over it, it will open up the donor detail for Anna Ferguson. And that's that head and shoulders icon. And it'll prompt you at the top that you're looking at the donor detail report for that specific tribute. Again, you can look at the donations in a specific time period, online and offline and things like that. So you can use the filters, and then you can actually export a report specifically on one tribute. And so that's a really nice tip to know. And again, you can use these columns here. Now, if you want to see a full donor detail report, you can simply click show all tributes, and it will show all of them there, and you can use the filters. You might want to do all or the past year and things like that. So again, you've got, it'll be in a live, the default will be, it'll be in the date the last donation was made. So you've got a live feed of the donations that are being paid into you. The tribute page that the donation was made on, you've got the tribute guardian information, and you can flick back actually to the summary report specifically for Anna, or any specific tribute that you want. Then you've got the donor information, and then the fields here on the online and offline donation information there. Using the fields at the top again, you can scroll down to the bottom, and using these export options, again, you can export that information out into a spreadsheet by clicking the boxes that you want and then using the green CSV. Now, I mentioned here that I was going to show you a little bit about the tribute reference here and the fundraising referencing. Now, what this relates to is using the customized referencing, and I'm just going to go through and show you how to do that. Within the gold bar at the top of the page, you've got a manage button, and within here there's customize references. So at the moment there's nothing added in, but you can go into each of these. There's tribute reference 1, 2, 3 and 4, and there's fundraising reference 1, 2, 3 and 4. They're exactly the same, we just didn't title them tribute reference 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, but they pull through onto the back end of a tribute, and I'll show you what I mean. So say for example you use Donify, I don't know what they are actually. Donify. The other thing that you might want to use, some charities say that actually to prompt and encourage their events team to promote tribute funds, they actually will use this as a soft credit. So they might use soft credit a certain area. It may be that you're a big national charity and you want to filter it by, want to put it in the region area and things like that. So use these fields however you want. Hopefully this has kind of given you a bit of an explanation. Now, hopefully by showing you on here, so your tributes and tributes fundraising for you, you're then able to, once you've popped in those fields that you want to include the data on, you can go into the settings of any tribute that you have, and then instead of tribute reference 1, 2, 3 and 4 that we had there, we're able to, these have changed. So Donify, you put in your Donify reference for that one person, soft credit the Southeast, maybe, or Emily's team or whatever it is that you want to do, region Southeast, whatever it is that you want to capture, which will really help you. You then save those changes. Now when you go to any of the reports, whether it be tribute report, donation summary report, or the donor detail report, when you export that information out into the spreadsheet, what you can see here, it was tribute reference 1, 2, 3 and 4. Now it's changed to those fields that you want to include. So you include, say you want the Donify referencing pulled out into the spreadsheet, you want the soft credit information and things like that, whatever it is that you want to use, you tick those boxes, and when you export that out using the green CSV, that will extract that data as well. And some charities, a lot of charities say that's so useful to be able to cross-reference and tag it with and toggle it with any other spreadsheets that they use. So hopefully that's explained it. I always feel I'm never that great explaining that, but hopefully it all makes sense to you. Right. When we're just looking at these areas here, there is various columns. You've got the date, the tribute details, not too dissimilar. You've got a lot of information within the donor detail report, and the donors details, their information, and again, the GDPR and online donations. But there's also a field right over here. I just need to move a picture of us. It's the payment details. So again, you can get the information here on the payment status and the dates it's paid and the referencing and things like that. So make sure that you have a look at all of these columns. Actually, as Jason said earlier, if you include all initially, obviously take out some of the stuff that you're really not interested in, you'll get a better idea of what all that information is that's available to you. Right, so moving on from the donor detail report, we're going to go to the event report. So the event report again filters at the top, so you can filter it on tributes that you want to be looking at. The event report is looking at all the events that are fundraising for you that have been added onto the tribute pages. This would include Just Giving pages that have also been that are being hosted on the page as well. So obviously people can create and host their own fundraising event on a tribute page, but they can also link a Just Giving page on there as well. And the Just Giving page, when donations are made, they appear as offline donations, but you can source all that information and the data out again using the similar formats. I think it's sort of getting to a point where it's fairly self-explanatory now. And you've got the export options here down to export that out into the reports. Now you're also able to see tribute events under this area here. So it's the tributes and there's the tribute events in here. And what you can see here are the events that are fundraising for you. You're able to click this box here and it takes you over to that specific event on the tribute page. You can see it. You've got the creator, where the tribute was created, or who created it, i.e. was it the tribute guardian, or was it somebody else, a friend or family who is hosting it on the page. So you've got those filters there. What's useful is when you do hover over it, it is sort of fairly self-explanatory. And then you've got the details of the event. So you can actually click into there. It's like a settings button, but for that specific event. And then similar to the customized referencing for the tribute reference and the fundraising reference, you've got this fun event referencing area as well. And you can change these headers as well. So again, going back to the customized referencing, you scroll down and get to the event referencing and say you want to change event reference 1 to, you know, maybe do a color run, or maybe you want to use some other sort of information there. You can add that in, and then when you go to the tribute event and you want to include the information there, you can pop in there the coding or whatever it is that's specific to your charity, add that in, save the information, and then when you go to an event report, you can export that information out into the report. Do you see that? The Colour Run 2021 will be the header and the title, and you can click that box as well as whatever else you want to export. And using the green CSV, that will take that out into that spreadsheet for you. I think I'm passing it back over to Jason now. If there's anything that I've missed off, Jason, please do let me know.
Before you do, I just wanted to reiterate that so the tribute report will give you all the information about the person who's created the tribute, and you need to download that report to get that information. And the event report will give you the information about the person who's created the event, because they could well be different. Because the tribute pages will allow any number of events to be added on within a tribute, and they don't have to be set up by the fund holder. So there could be a number of different supporters in your, you know, that have created events within a tribute. So you will need to download the event report to get that information about them.
And actually, just one other thing on there, it's really quite nice that if there are lots of different people who are supporting your charity through events on one page, is building those relationships. They're also going to be your supporters. You know, it's a really lovely excuse to sort of get in touch with them when there's an event that's added. And obviously you can use the alerts to be notified of things like that. But yeah, just a really nice opportunity to sort of engage with the wider audience of a tribute page. Sorry, Jason, I'll let you carry on. I'll mute myself now and stop talking.
Thank you both. I've got the final bit of reporting, which is the tribute activity report. It's actually my favourite report. And the tribute activity report shows all of the activity on the tribute pages. So you've got here the tribute column shows the actual tribute, days since the creation. And you can obviously all read this: thoughts, gifts, candles, images, music, videos, events, donations, and you can toggle with this here, and it will show you those with the least and those with the most amount of activity. And you can also export that data. So this is quite a simple one, really. I just wanted to kind of touch on the fact that even though the page might be really old, so the days since creation might be quite high, and the activity could be quite low, that doesn't mean that that tribute page doesn't have value to the tribute owner. And actually there's huge value in you making contact with them and kind of saying their relative's name. There's huge value in that. This is also a really good way of identifying tribute pages that would work really well as a case study. So those with lots of activity actually could be a nice one for you to share. So making contact with the tribute owner and asking them would they like to be involved in helping you create and share a case study. And that's quite a nice thing for people to be asked to be involved in.
If you just zoom in on it a little bit, because I think there's a couple of people that are finding it a bit small.
Yeah, sure. Is that easier to see?
Yeah, it is much easier to see.
Brilliant. So yeah, tribute activity is really interesting. So as I said, case studies, don't underestimate the value of those tribute pages that don't have a lot of activity. You can obviously invite people to interact with their page, say a couple of months, 3 months later on, or actually have a conversation with the tribute owner and say, how are you finding it? Is there anything I can do to help? Is this something you'd like to develop further, or are you happy with it as it is? It's a nice kind of way to interact, a nice excuse to interact with someone. I think people will be quite flattered by it as well. Can either of you think of anything more to add about the tribute activity report?
I think the only thing really is actually similar to that, the initial report, the scheme overview, where you're seeing the most active tributes, is if you're trying to maybe talk about it to either promote it internally, say with your bereavement team or something like that, is sometimes to use those filters at the top to find maybe the one with the most images, but less donations. So you click it, as Jason's just demonstrating here, one that's got, you know, maybe lots of activity and lots of photos, so that your teams and colleagues, and say you demonstrated this page, you know, I know that sometimes fundraising teams will say that actually embedding it within the bereavement team, they're worried about it all being about fundraising. It's a really nice tool and area to be able to pick some really nice tributes that have lots more, like the candles, the images, the gifts and things like that, and maybe it's not all about the focus on the donations. And likewise, when you share that page with the colleagues and maybe show them the benefits, you know, for the grieving and bereaved supporter, showing them that they can add photos and their stories and their memories and how meaningful these pages are to the families. It's kind of taking your fundraising hat off a little bit and putting yourself in the seat of your sort of colleague who's trying to offer bereavement support and actually demonstrating that. This is actually, I find, a really lovely area to pick those tribute pages out.
Brilliant, thank you. And then, oh, this is slick. We've got an exciting poll. So I'm just going to launch the poll. First time doing this, so this might be the one that says polls. That's the one, isn't it? Launch polling. Here we go. So if you would be kind enough to click on the CRMs, the databases that you use, we'd be very, very grateful. And I can see you all clicking away, which is really exciting to see. I don't know if you can see that too.
Yeah, it's really helpful, especially as we are going to be looking at creating some kind of API so we can offer you some level of integration. It's not going to happen overnight, so I can't make any promises of when it's going to happen, but it's really useful for us to know what databases you're all using for that.
If you're using some of the others, so say there's others out there that when, you know, there's so many out there, and I'm aware of that do let us know as well. So, you know, if there's one that you're all using but we haven't listed it, drop us an email, let us know, or pop it in the chat box. Because as Sally said, you know, if we know, you know, the more we know about the charity, the better we can develop the platform and hopefully make it as good as we can for you, maybe with some sort of integration or just having a better understanding ourselves.
Brilliant, thank you. And our next slide is additional resources. So within your partner area, underneath the Manage tab, will take you to your support site. And on that support site, there's a really specific and concise video on all of the reports that Catherine and I have spoken about. So you can obviously rewatch this webinar, but you can also go to your support site, and there are lots of videos there. And you can obviously ask us as well, so do reach out and ask if you need any help. We've got an amazing MuchLoved Google group, which I think has over 250 people who are members, and there's lots of activity in there. If you'd like to join that Google group, or if you know of any colleagues who you might think could be interested, then let me know. So if you email me or email your account manager, and I can add you to that group. Our upcoming webinar is on dedication pages, which is really exciting, and we're having a bit of a break from webinars, so I think that's going to be in September, but the date for that is on our support site as well. So if you can have a nosy, and if as a minimum you could register for that, we'd be really flattered, so thank you. And as I said, finally, speak to your account manager or any of us and ask for help. Yeah, and that's about it really. If you've been really quiet on the chat, which makes our lives easier in some ways, but please, what are your questions before we disappear?
So we've got one here from Tracy, who's asking about the tribute activity report. On their tribute activity report, there doesn't show any items, even though they have thoughts and candles added in the last week. and they're set up as an advantage partner. So correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure that this is because the attribute activity report is actually an activity report on the tributes created through your own scheme. So you're probably looking at tributes there that have got activity on that have been set up by funeral directors and things like that. And the other thing that's worth checking is that you know, if you've got the tributes that have been set up, as you're saying there, that you're an advantage partner, have you got any of those tributes set up through your own scheme? And if they had activity on there, then that's when you would see that activity in your tribute activity report. Does that make sense? Sorry, I just sort of waffled through that. So we're looking at tribute activity on the tribute set up through your own scheme.
Excellent.
Yeah,
Thank you very much. I think that made sense.
Good.
So I'll just give everyone a minute to see if there's any other questions. Thanks very much for attending this morning. So we're having a little break, as Jason said, so there won't be one next month because we just figured everyone's going to be on holiday, let's hope anyway. So the next one will be back in September, where we'll be talking dedication pages. So hopefully we'll see you and more there. So thanks again for joining, and look out for the email with a link to the recording, and please do share it with your colleagues.